Thank you. Lovely to bring that. Beauty. Hey, good to see you again. Familiar faces. We're kind of doing this this presentation in ascending order of athletic ability, which is why I started. And then there's just a quantum leap to Kerry Suter and Craig Kirkwood, who are pretty damn close. And Kerry is a 2 times winner of the Tarawera Ultra Marathon. He won the race the first 2 years, and so Kerry is, I've got to warn you, he's a very shy and retiring person. So we're hoping that by this final seminar he's sort of come out of his shell a little bit. So the Reverend Professor Sir Dr. Kerry Suter.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, guys. Introduction first, and a few apologies. My wife always likes me to apologise before I get started, so I'll do it here as well. I'm Dr. Kerry Suter. The first apology, of course, is that I'm not a real doctor, but research shows that you're more inclined to listen to me if I say I am. Also, if I start my sentences with research shows, you're more inclined to pay attention to them or believe they're true. Didn't get a doctorate or a degree, and didn't finish high school, but I learned a lot about running. There's a chick in here who's in the room, Jojo Hansen. It took ages to make all those squares of her. She knows a lot as well. Hopefully she'll stick around, but if you want to ask a real pro about running an ultra marathon, I'd probably hit her with some Q&A time. The other thing I want to apologise about also is running something I'm really excited about. So when I get excited about something, my eyes go really big and I move around a lot. And I talk really quickly, so all of my words are sort of going to just crash into one another. And my vocabulary is a little bit limited, so you might find some of the vernacular a little challenging with the smaller words. But I'll try and sort of scooch away from those. It won't be the worst thing that's been on the internet, I promise. I have been doing quite a bit of coaching now. I used to do a little bit of running. As a coach, I started this thing called Squadron, and it's mostly just about having fun, but there is some more serious sort of training and racing aspects to it. We eat a lot of jet planes. Well, I do, but I eat the purple ones. A lot of jet planes on the way, and there's still some on the way. I think I'm down to my last few bags. We have dog tags and I say the sunglasses, but it's mostly just about having fun. I've only got like about a dozen athletes, and that's really all I can handle at the moment. Probably it's about as many people can handle me. It's a really full-on, challenging but rewarding thing being a coach and being part of people's journey when they're training to do these really cool things. But as a coach, I'm really quite excited about sort of the motivation and the mindset of running and understanding what it takes as a person to be involved in the sport. And that's at all spectrums, not just at a competitive level, but often as an entry level. So what we're going to do tonight is probably sort of split the seminar into sort of 2 parts, and I'll sort of cover off more of the understanding yourself in an ultra marathon and your motivations and those sorts of things. And I'm going to leave a lot of the technical nuts and bolts of building a program and doing the real running and stuff to Craig Kirkwood. So CK is a very capable runner. It's probably more appropriate to talk about how to run properly, given that he's actually run like a 2:13 marathon, which is one of the fastest marathons that New Zealanders have ever done. He did that a couple of centuries ago. It's been bettered by, I think, only 2 Kiwis since then, but he does know a lot about the intricacies of it. I do get excited about it. As a coach and as a runner, I get really excited about the maths and all the spreadsheets and the heart rate monitors and all of the training paces and all of those things, but I'm not going to talk about any of that tonight. Periodization, really excited, building base programs and targeting races. But having fun is very important for me, so smile. What I did before we started putting seminars together is I got in touch with some of the best ultra runners in the world, legitimately best ultra runners in the world, and I said if you were to pass on one tip to new people coming into the sport or wanting to do an ultra marathon or a trail marathon, what would that one bit of information be? If you don't take on board a lot of my ramblings, please pay attention to some of the useful information that comes from people that actually know the shit, and also Paul's tips about Vaseline. So what I realised is one of the first responses I actually got from a great Kiwi ultra marathoner, Scott Hawker from Christchurch, now lives in Katoomba in Australia. He said smile, and I very quickly realised that the photos I had of me running, there's not a lot of photos of me smiling. And I realised this is one of me lying down, not smiling, and that's a standing up, not smiling one. Just in the photo album, there's more if that was not smiling on the road, circles not smiling. I didn't smile. My wife knows that face for different reasons. There's me not smiling at a road race. 5K that was very fast. I wasn't smiling a lot there. Road race. That guy's covered his own spit. He's not smiling. That was, yeah. But yes, Scott Hawker, he said just smile. He says even when I'm hurting in my training or racing, I smile and I remember why I'm out there. Sometimes it feels as if my whole body just relaxes and my legs feel lighter. Now it was really cool. Last month I got to go to the Blue Mountains and watch Scott Hawker race against Dylan Bowman, who is the Tarawera champ. And Dylan set a course record and Scott was only about 6 minutes behind him. And it was beautiful watching him all day because Scott Hawker smiled all the way around the course and it was a genuine smile and he was loving his time out there even though he was suffering. And I think that's a really good bit of information that Scott passes on is choose to enjoy it and smile. So the next thing I wanted to talk about when the slide loads is myself. There's a reason I want to do this because we're going to have a test afterwards. It's relevant to actually what we're going to talk about, so I'll try and cover it really quickly. I was never a particularly athletic person. I was about 17, 18 kilos heavier than I am now. I was in my late 20s, and I thought, someone had said to me that the body you have when you're 30 is the body you have for your rest of your life, and I'm like, well, I don't want that for me. So I thought I'd try and bring some exercise into my life. I had been playing football, but I was really crap at it. I used to just sort of run around the field and trip over the ball and stuff. And I didn't really have the coordination to take up any of those clever sports like hitting the ball over the net or the cracking the thing with a club. And I thought that this would be a really good one. The good thing about running is it only relies, your only requirement is yourself, really. It's your input equals your rewards. You're not relying on a goalie having a good day or anything like that. So I decided that I would try and do a little bit of running. It's covered. I thought I'd try and make exercise or being a little bit fitter a bit of a habit. So I did some research on Google Scholar, legitimate research. It takes about 44 days to build a habit on average. Repetitively doing something, make it normal. I thought I would try and make running a habit. So what I did is I went out for a 2K run. I ran down to the bridge and back, and that was a whole 2 kilometres, and my legs were really sore, and I couldn't walk for a week. I had that week off, made some cheesecake, and then had another think about it, went for a 2K run, and then I couldn't walk for about half a week. And I realised that it got to the point that I could go for a 2K run, and the very next day, I could go for another 2K run, and I went, holy moly, I could probably get about starting this habit. So what I did is I set a realistic goal for myself, and that realistic goal for me was just to run 100 days. I set a silly rule about 5K or 30 minutes to make a legitimate attempt to do some running. And I ran for 100 days. And then I wanted to prove that I wasn't addicted to running, so I took a few days off. Which was a good idea, just to prove that I mentally hadn't lost control. I started a new streak, started at 0, and I streaked through to 932 days, and then I realised I hated running. And this is where the important thing comes in. The reason why I hated running is I realised I wasn't running for the reasons why I started running. I got caught up in chasing stopwatches and race times and trying to run lengths of things and do all sorts of silly bullshit that just wasn't important. And I'd lost sight of really my core motivations. So what I did is I took 8 months off running, and then I went for a 2K run and I couldn't walk for a week. So that I think in that time I got not completely rubbish at it. If you do something for 932 days, you want to hope that you're not rubbish at it. It was really mostly just a lot of jogging. I took myself quite seriously for a while. I was quite obsessed by it. I was a bit one-dimensional and people didn't invite me to parties much. And now I think I have a better relationship with running. I'm not so one-dimensional, I just don't get invited to the parties. I don't understand what that's about. I learned a lot about myself in that time, and I think it was really cool to sort of challenge myself and realise that it was really, my motivations hadn't changed to why I was doing it. And so that's the main thing I want to talk about today, and that is motivation. One of the things that I ask all of the athletes that I coach is if they can write down a couple of sentences of why they run. Why is it important to them? And that's because, well, there's no wrong answer for a start. I think everyone's motivation is really interesting. It's a very personal story, and I don't think there is a wrong reason to be doing anything. For myself, my motivation that I wrote down is running is the mechanism by which I'm able to fully participate in life. It offsets my sedentary lifestyle and helps me with my mental well-being. So, certainly a big chunk of that first part, you understand what I talked about. I wanted to participate in my life. I didn't want it to slip by. I didn't want my friends to say, hey, Kerry, we're going to bowl up to Yalaha or Parongi or something in the weekend. Do you want to come? And I didn't want to be, well, I'm a bit of a fanny, so I'll hold you up and I can't come. I like to go down to South Island and bowl around the Southern Alps. This is a photo I did with my brother. We're mucking around. I just want to be involved in my life. A lot of people have kids, probably understand that. Being part of their lives might be important to you as well. Definitely the participation thing is a very common theme that I see. A lot of us spend a lot of time in chairs. I spend like up to 16 hours a day clicking on email icons or skeletons. So it's good to get out and have that outlet. So my motivation that I always come back to is very important for me. But I'll cover some other people's motivations, which I see a lot of as well, eventually. Photos from today's run. I went over the Jumbo Holsworth just for shits and giggles, and that was about 3.5 hours, and I nearly froze to death. Don't go up there right now with sneakers and shorts. Very down my near. But I smiled. Not much, actually. They genuinely thought I was going to die. So yeah, other people's motivations, when I ask them to talk to them about motivation, this is a really common theme. I want to do something epic. So I did something slightly epic today. I want to go back to Tarawera and try and run the full length of the Tarawera later this year. We'll see how that goes. But that's a really common theme. For a lot of people in the room that are looking at doing maybe their first serious trail run, like the 42k or the 50k, or even maybe parts of the Ultra Marathon, it's a really exciting, do something epic. So I would say write down your motivations so you understand them. Another one I see a lot is I love my skinny jeans. I want to lose weight and be healthy, and there's always variations on that physical health and weight loss. That's quite common as well. I have actually said someone has given me the motivation, said I love my skinny jeans. I think that's really neat. Running was a great mechanism for that person to lose a lot of weight. I want to hang out with my mates. Good people run, so it's always a community theme. Clive will tell you about that if you jump on Facebook, if you've heard of Facebook. Really common. A lot of people, even people that don't race or don't want to pay for a race or put on a race number or take it serious, quite often it's just about spending time with their friends, like-minded people that want to go out and do some exercise. I often say that my 2-hour run on the weekends is something that happens when I go out for a conversation with friends. So that's a really standard thing that I see a lot of people come back to me with. I have seen I've heard an athlete say to me, I want to be a household name. And my initial reaction was a little bit of shock, but then the realization that there's nothing wrong with that, because I think that she was true to it, and she's honest, and she's a great athlete, and so why not? So it's part of her drive and her motivation, and I think if she can always tie her training back to it or her racing back to it and be okay with it, then I think it's really good for her to follow that. Another reason I say motivation is really important because running is a lot of fun, it's a lot rewarding, but it can be really hard and challenging, particularly if you're training for something really big. There'll be times you got to go out and it's dark or it's cold. I'm a fair weather athlete, I don't like going out in the rain. I've got to get up early in the morning to train, or it could be a bit cold. And I think, for me, I've even had moments where I sat down and cry about it and ask myself why I'm doing this. And if I, in that moment, can ask myself why am I doing it and answer it with my motivation, I'm doing this so that I can do that thing, or the thing that ties into my motivation, it's so much easier to get up and carry on. And so that's why I think prepare yourself for those challenging times by understanding your motivation, understanding it really, really well. One of the other things that I did say I was going to talk about, but I kind of regret that I said I was going to talk about it, is just a little bit about genetics. The theme that I'm going to put on from here on for the rest of my talk is actually about running not being an exclusive sport. It's a really inclusive thing, and you don't need to have a different amount of melatonin in your skin to be a particularly good runner. So just quickly on genetics, you are 92% the same as a mouse in terms of genes. So 8% dissimilar to a mouse in terms of your genetic code. You're 98% the same as a chimpanzee and a little bit closer to some of the higher apes. So 2% differences there. So for all intents and purposes, if you want to compare yourself to those people in the background, and the Ethiopians as well, being not Kenyan, you are effectively 0% different to them in terms of genetics. And so the point here is, and what you hear a lot is people go, I can't do it because of, well, I don't know, it's certainly my big bones. I've never seen a fat skeleton. There is no such thing as big bones. It's about not creating those genetic excuses, like why you can't do an ultra marathon because of your third nipple or the snorting sounds you make when you laugh or whatever stupid thing you want to come up with. You are going to be able to do it, maybe not quite as good as these people who have a very slight genetic difference to us in that they have slightly smaller feet. They carry oxygen just a little bit better than us. But certainly the thing that makes them significantly better than us is that their phenotype is quite different. So phenotype is just your genes plus all your stimulus and everything that you've done to date to right at this point. So my phenotype is a lot of sitting around eating cheesecake and a little bit of running. So these people obviously are born into a culture of success where running is an important thing for them. They're surrounded by people that make running very important for them in the same way that we produce a lot of fantastic rugby players. It's a very important thing for our culture and it's a very important thing for their culture. So it's also quite normal for them to be surrounded by people that are running like 3-minute Ks for a marathon or faster for a 10-minute 10K race. So pretty standard for them to churn out really, really good athletes. I think if we had the same mentality as those people, the same drive and discipline for running as they do, that will probably get fairly similar results. I don't think that, genetically speaking, their 2-hour marathon, they're not, it's not going to wait to your 4-hour marathon or 5-hour marathon. They're not twice as fast as you simply because of genetics. Basically it's about, in terms of an ultramarathon, they're more or less the same as you. It's really less to do, more about what you've done in your training and your time in running than the uterus that you fell out of. That's actually from a different presentation. I don't know how they got in there. That's I do another seminar. That's a shark brain. I don't know what you thought it was. It is actually a shark brain. I'll narrow that genetic scope just a little bit really quickly, but we'll make it less drab and boring. There's a couple of dudes here who look a little bit more like me, but run as world class as those Kenyans. And these dudes are from Hamilton, which is just down the road from where I am. We've both got fairly similar pigmentation. I'm probably tan a little bit better than they do. Cool necklaces, and I'm trying to grow a bit of a, we'll see how that goes. Jake and Zane Robinson, I always say one of the most important factors, if I could choose an athlete, the most important trait I'd have wouldn't be any talent or birthright or ability, it's actually just their patience is the most important trait for a runner. These guys were good runners when they left New Zealand at age 17. They're actually from the same running club as me. They were a little bit better than me, but not significantly. They had been running for about 3 years, maybe a little bit more, but certainly by the age of 17 they were okay runners. Another 7 years in Kenya and thereabouts, and at age 24 they are seriously world class. And that is really so much about their self-belief, their discipline and time. Really time, the important thing in that. And I think, in all honesty, and this echoes an Arthur Lydiard statement, if we took, say, 50 Kiwi kids that had the same mentality and drive and discipline as these guys, and we expose them to the same sort of training, and if they survived it, I think we would more or less get the same results. It's really just about making that running the number one thing. And I'm not recommending you go train like these guys, but I just want to say these guys are a lot more like us than maybe the runners one slide back. And a big thing about the Tarawera Ultra is you see just ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And here's one of my favourite. This is Raven Bloomberg. She was an athlete that I helped out a little bit with her training, but what's cool about Raven is she's a 55-year-old grandmother. And when we had our fire course, the year we had to shorten the course a little bit, she was the 4th woman across the line. and that is significantly badass. In no small way, we need to attribute some of that to her training, but she just set about doing it and putting a bit of time and just getting the training right. And she's just an ordinary Kiwi, and she was just genuinely badass out there that day. And she's still a great runner, and she's still a grandmother. So yeah, I think if she can do it, then just about anyone can. There's another dude that I quite like as well. This dude here is Brian Smith. He's 83, I think, this year. He regularly gets to the 60k line. We'd like to see if we can get to 85 one day, maybe on his 85th birthday. He started running in his late 50s, so one excuse I won't stand for is I left it a bit late to get started. He has a blast. There's a reason he keeps showing up to these races, because he thoroughly enjoys himself. And he's generally not the last person across the line. And he does all sorts of ultra running all across New Zealand. And a really, really nice dude too. So it's very much an ordinary person's sport, and it's an incredibly accessible thing. One of the leaks that got back to me was Anton Krupicka, one of the most famous ultra runners in the world. He said be stubborn. 100 k's is probably the longest a beginner has ever attempted to run. So no matter what, it's going to become hard and comfortable work at some point. Stand on the start line with the conviction that you will finish no matter what. And when the drudgery begins, ignore the negative thoughts and remember your commitment. And I think that's really important stuff there. Anton Krupicka knows a hell of a lot about running ultra marathons, and we are incredibly lucky that he gave you this information. I think it would probably be worth reading twice if you get a chance. So really quickly, having done a little bit of ultra running, Paul says I won the races in the first 2 years. I did it before anyone else was there, so there was before it was cool, but it wasn't an incredibly competitive event that it is today. I did learn a lot about running, so probably my how-to basic on doing ultra marathon. Yeah, that's quite an important one. I'm a little bit on the fence about this, because Charter says you want to be sure you're doing it. You want to be sure you want to do it. Don't enter because there's a pressure for you to do it, or you think it might be the sort of thing. Generally have a desire to do it, but nothing will start off your motivation to do some training and get some exercise and partake in the sport, like getting that email confirmation from Paul that says, congratulations, you've just entered an ultra marathon. So do consider entering something. Another thing I'd do is I'd probably do some training. I'm not going to tell you how to do that, it's a secret. The other thing I'd do is I'd show up. It's 3 simple things, and you'd be surprised how many people get the last one wrong. In the hundreds forget to show up on race day. Huge mistake, classic mistake. You've got to show up. Give it a crack, even if you're feeling a little bit ruined and you may be sore or tired or may not be a thing. Get on the start line and see how far you go. Go 5k, go 10k. You might surprise yourself. It's really not uncommon for people to get through their 60k and even upsize it on the day. What I would do is if I'd gotten that email, I'd probably go for a jog. Not right now because it's dark and I'd like you to stick around. But certainly tomorrow I'll probably go for a jog. And it really sums up probably the bulk of my training is just going for a jog. It's not a particularly complicated thing. In fact, the training program, if I could boil it down to one thing, would be go for a jog. I'd make jogging normal. And so I talked briefly about making a habit, but there's more to it than that. Your families and the people around you are invested in what you do. What you do is a selfish pursuit that takes often you away from that family. If you make jogging quite normal, then you're more likely inclined to get the conversations like, hey, have you been for your run today? Or how far did you run today? And it may not just be your family, it might be those people that you work with or your friends. Don't make it so much that you don't get invited to barbecues and parties, but certainly surround yourself with like-minded people. Maybe jump onto websites. Facebook's a great place to learn about some running, certainly people in running. There's some books out there. Maybe avoid some of the magazines because they're mostly shit. But surround yourself with information and people, and running will become quite a normal thing. One of the other things I would do is I would join a club. Now, you're quite lucky in Wellington to have the second best running club in the country outside of Hamilton. And there are a lot of really capable people in there, and they will impart wisdom to you. If anyone has been around the Wellington Scottish, they might have met a guy called Reece Buck who'll talk at you for about 2 hours. He knows a lot of stuff about running, and he's a great source of inspiration and those sorts of things. And Wellington Scottish certainly attend the Tarawera Ultra very well, and they're probably going to give us a real hiding in the relay this year or next year, but we'll see how that goes. If you think that singlets and little race numbers and they take the stuff very seriously, if that's not for you, and for most people it isn't, and I totally understand that. I was entirely overwhelmed by all those running obsessed people at the Hawks in Hamilton. Start your own club. It's really easy to do. You Facebook pages, all those sorts of things. I've actually tried to start some running clubs with people that are out there run. Girls don't want to be in my club. That's what I established. True story. That actually happens. All I want to do is find a running mentor. This is really easy. Anyone who's done any of these events before knows a little bit about it. You've probably got friends that have done it or talked you into it or those sorts of things. Ask them about it. They'll tell you about how to do some training, get some information, or where to go for information. Lots of running mentors on Facebook. I'll answer some questions if you put them up there, because I've got nothing better to do. Get a coach. You can get them usually through running clubs, actually, normally free. Coaches will help you out with your training. The reason I say get a coach is probably more important than just downloading a training program, because that's madness. Coaches are really good, not just for helping you with the information, but they'll help motivate you as well. So, and a good coach will understand your life and fitting running in around your busy life. You can be a really rewarding experience working with a coach. It's not just for people that want to take this stuff seriously. A lot of my athletes are, I would say, not really athletes. They're running 5Ks in like 26, 27 minutes. So a coach can help a lot there. This is often one of the things that you're going to commit a lot of time and money to. This may be your one big hoorah in your life. And if you're going to throw down a ton of cash at something like going to Tarawera Ultra and hanging at Rotorua for a week, it's not too ridiculous to think you might want to find a reasonable coach to help you out for a couple $100. If you're going to pick a coach, just quickly, don't pick a coach that's applying all of their training ideas to themselves and they're a shit runner. That would be the coaches I would avoid. There are plenty of those out there. Just quickly, subconscious running. I think this is quite a useful bit of information. Kilometres are king. Why? I'm not going to tell you. Kilometres are king mostly because these ultramarathons are a great amount of distance. And time on feet's a good saying, but at the end of the day, you're going to need to actually cover the distance to get to the finish line. Just standing on your feet, you'll probably still be here, which is what happens. One of the cool things I like about those kilometres is you can help lay down some subconscious foundations with the activity of movement. So I say rhythm running, other coaches refer to it as well. It's a pretty standard sort of process of trying to repeat a biomechanical movement you're going to do a lot of, so that some of it will come into your subconscious. In the same ways that you don't realise you're breathing, so riding a bike's a good example of something you've committed to your subconscious you don't really realise. There's a lot of very complicated balancing things that are happening there when you're riding a bike, and almost all of it sits in the back of your brain. The way to create something, make something subconscious is usually just to repeat it. Monks that do it will quite often have a mantra that they'll repeat if they're thinking about something, and that'll just push into the subconscious. So I think rhythm running is a good way to do it. The way I do a rhythm run is usually find some unobstructed terrain, something like 30 k's of road is what I do for a rhythm run. I don't necessarily recommend it for you, but I would say don't do something on the trail. The transition in speed and body movement means you're not repeating the very same lateral movements, your arm movements, your leg movements, the breathing, the sensation of movement. So find yourself something that you can really just grind out the kilometres in and set into a steady sort of pace and do it. And it'll really help you sort of beat down that efficiency of movement. Covered that? Good. Mental conditioning. So the other good thing about subconscious running or rhythm running is that you can do some mental conditioning in it, and that's understanding yourself when you're a bit fatigued or suffering through some effort. So in particular, effort is you can do understanding hardship. So if you're doing some more intense training, say tempo running, threshold running, more intensely, so like maybe go to a park run, do the waterfront 5K series you guys got here, understanding yourself when you're hurting. And I think that is, I describe it as being comfortable being uncomfortable. Because in an ultra distance race, there's going to be a lot of time out there, and it's going to be really good for you if you already know what it's like to feel shithouse. So I would say get used to that as well. Stage candidate, two-time winner of the Tarawera Ultra, he replied to me and he said, focus on form and think quick and light for moving your feet. It is a good distraction from the pain, that it helps keep the stride rate up, and it helps with efficiency. In the second half of the race, as I tire, my stride rate slows too much and my form breaks. He's written some books, he's run like a 2:17 marathon, he's a legitimately capable runner, and he mentions in here a lot of the foundations that I think are so important into being a good ultra distance runner. He talks about how important form and efficiency is. He talks about concentrating. He talks about cadence, comes in here as well, and stride rate. He talks about positive and negative splits, and I think he brushes on all of the most important aspects of putting together a really good ultra marathon. But since you paid only $5, I'm not going to tell you what they are. Now, this guy here, I asked him for a few words and he didn't give me a few words. He's Mike Wardian, nicest guy in ultra distance running, no doubt. He said, be consistent in your training and believe in the work you did preparing for this event. The race is the fun part where you get to have the opportunity to shine, take advantage of it, and remember there will come a time in the race when it won't be fun anymore and you'll want to stop. But I promise you that that feeling is nothing compared to the joy, elation and fulfillment you'll feel when you cross the line. Be consistent, be relentless, and you'll finish it and it will be so worth it. This just really came through with my run that I had with Paul this year. He was suffering, there were some dark clouds, he wasn't talking a lot, and he stepped across the line, put his arms in the air and cried. It was an amazing sensation for him, and he suffered for 15 hours, something like
16, 15.
Holy moly. And simply those few minutes that followed made it all worthwhile. And I think the relentless assault on the finish line is a really good tip as well, because you'll want to give up and your mind will try and talk you out of continuing, and your legs will tell you to stop. They will lie to you. But just attack, just keep attacking that finish line and eventually it'll give up. Mike Wardian, hope he comes back, hope he comes to the 4250, hope he comes to the ultra marathon. Without a doubt the coolest dude in ultra running, in the background with a cool beard. If you see him anywhere, go up and get your arm around him and get one of those Facebook photos. There's thousands of them out there with him. And he will always take the time to talk to you and be super cool. So I have a lot of love for that dude. He's a very capable runner, and so glad that he gave me some time to give me some tips. So, Andrew Frost is a very good runner. Another really good tip I got was from Vajan Armstrong, who we also will love. This isn't Vajan, this is Jorge Maravilla. He came second at the Tarawera Ultra this year, shooting rainbows out his feet. The reason why I put him in this picture is because he's probably the hardest smiler I know. I thought his head was going to crack open at one stage, he was smiling so hard. And Vajan's quite just really sat well with it. Vajan said, love what you're doing, and when you love something, you can give everything you have and are to that cause. You choose to be out there at this event, so choose to love it. And I think choice is such an important thing. I got some time with Vajan Armstrong when he was in Rotorua, ahead of last year's 4250, and I was talking about some of the fatiguing runs I was doing and how much I was hating the training for ultra marathons and the hours put in. And he said, Kerry, it's the thing you choose to do in your pastime, you choose to love it. And we spoke a little bit about that and strategies for that. And they really have helped me quite a lot. So I think his statement resonates really well with me. I took it on board really well, and I went and did a Kerry Ultra, the 70k Ultra at Coromandel, and I smiled my way through 70k. And my trick, which I took from Vajan, was when you have a negative stimulus, try and think of 3 positive stimulus. So if I'm rolling along and my legs go, this is shit, we should stop, I go, shut up legs, let's try and focus on 3 cool things. And they can be anything. Don't repeat them, try and come up with new ones. That's part of the challenge. I'll go, whoa, the view's quite good. And what can I see? A lot of green, and that's like my second favourite colour, so that's pretty good. And you just come up with little mundane things, like, oh, I need a jet plane. Whatever makes you happy, try it. Honestly try it. If you're suffering, just switch over and try and find 3 good things. I see a lot of people give me excuses as to why they can't do the training or don't want to enter an ultra distance race. I don't have enough time to train. This is the most common excuse. The cool thing about running is you can get a hell of a lot done in 30 minutes. It's important to try and get those long runs in, particularly if you're going to go to an ultra marathon. And I think all of us have time to get out the door for 90 minutes or 2 hours in a weekend, or during the week if that's your thing. But if you are suffering for time, the core principle of training for these things is just to go for a jog, and if you do that at lunch hour, maybe do that after work, do it before work. There's a lot of us who have full-time jobs. I have kids as well, and that's like a full-time job as well. And I do coaching as well, so that soaks up a lot of my spare time. And I still get to click on some skeletons every now and again. And I still get time to train. And I think we can all fit it into our busy, hectic lives. The cool thing about running is that you can get a lot done. It's sort of like a sport. You don't need any equipment for the start, but in 30 minutes you could do what you'd have to do in an hour on a bike, or 45 minutes in a pool, or those sorts of things. So go to your one off. If you're short on time, you're like, oh, we've got a kids netball or something. I've got like literally half an hour. Rip out the door and do 25k, 25 minutes 5k. Yeah. I've tried that, don't do that. Just do like a 5k hard around the block or something, you know, like just fatigue yourself really hard. Go rip up and down the hills. You guys have just got hills here, you don't have any flat bits, so just like the neighbour's house and back, do that 10 times. And yeah, I think you can get a lot done. So anyway, that's the nuts and bolts of I think how the mind is important to your running, and I think probably best I hand it over to Craig Kirkwood. Thanks guys.